I mean, it is funny, but she did say at one time she was probably what, 3 or 4.
But she was 3 or 4. I was like, Charlotte, I love you so much. She goes, oh, thank you. And I was like, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Just what you want to hear from your own
plenty more
child.
where that came from. Oh, I was so close.
I was so close. Welcome to this week's episode of Teaching Keating.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go. Your
Yay.
shining moment.
I
Nicely
know.
done.
I know. Hi, babe.
Hi. How are you?
I'm great. You want to talk about some really awesome stuff today related to me? I hope
Always.
it's related to me.
If it's about you, I want to talk about it.
It's not about me, but it's indirectly. It's a larger. We're going to talk about love today.
Okay, great. Yes, it's definitely related to you.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope so.
Yes. Hey.
By a lot of ways.
So here's going to be our challenge.
Oh,
right?
okay.
Like, our challenge is to talk about this without being so obnoxious and gross to
I mean, I'm
everyone
way
watching.
better at that than you are.
I was going to say this is my challenge today.
I'm serious.
100%.
I'm always like, oh, thanks, honey. I really love you. And I do. That's authentic. I do. But it's always like, let's move. We got stuff going on. We got to move.
You and Charlotte, the two most important women in my life, are just sometimes I think you're just dead inside.
We're not.
Well, there's been times where I'll say to Charlotte, I'm just like, I love you so much.
Yeah.
And she'll go, oh, thank you.
When she was little, she actually responds now.
She'll still
kind.
She'll still say that to me sometimes because she knows it's funny, right? And it secretly hurts me.
It is funny, but she did say at one time she was probably what, 3 or 4.
But she was 3 or 4. I was like, Charlotte, I love you so much. She goes, oh, thank you. And I was like, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Just what you want to hear from your own
plenty more
child.
where that came from.
It's true. It's in service of the greater good. So we're going to talk about just different types of love.
Well, in the spirit
what
of
it means.
Valentine's Day.
Yes.
And Saint Valentine.
Saint Valentine.
Right.
Marrying people in secret. Yeah.
And I think it's interesting that we have a conversation about love.
Oh, okay.
Because it's weird. Love is one of those things that we all aspire to or find ourselves in some way, shape, or form. I hope everyone has people that they love. I hope everyone has people who love them.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's just what teaching do we do about what do we tell our kids about love? And it's weird, right? Like our kids and young adults, people are growing up at a time when
it's a really strange time.
How you pursue things like marital love and partnership and those the methodologies are way different.
I think we feel I'll just talk from our own experience. I think when we talk about love or how we fell in love or talking to the kids about anything, it sounds archaic to them. When we talk
met
about
face to face in the 1900s.
They do say the 1900s, yeah.
Which
technically is right.
Is wild.
They do, but
you and I actually didn't meet in the 1900s.
No, we didn't.
We met in the 2000s.
Yeah, way later.
But
still, it is. It seems like an archaic form to them. They don't understand sort of systems or methodology or why we would ever go to the movies or go,
They meet each other in a 2-dimensional space now.
Yes, and it's really strange because we were just talking about it as a group before, and we, it's not like their hormones have changed. So adolescently, they want to have the same sort of markers and experiences. And our daughter's really into all of her friends are boy crazy right now because middle school and everybody's boy crazy and everybody has a different boyfriend, even though he's not their boy. Yeah, it's just a really strange time, which I don't know how much middle school has changed. I feel like that was probably always pretty par for the course.
Yeah.
The girls are always way into boys earlier than the guys are into the girl. They're so awkward and doing weird things.
John, we were just talking about this.
Oh, yeah, we were saying it.
We were just talking about the age you were when you received your first kiss.
Oh, okay.
And I feel for kids that's getting later and later.
I mean, I'm okay with that.
I'm curious. I am as a parent, but I'm also not.
Okay.
So okay,
go ahead. I'm not going to say it on 3.
Vulnerability time. You don't have to say it out loud. If you want, you can just hold up
Sure.
How old were you?
Yeah.
Either by age or in what grade were you when you received your first kiss?
Tell me. Okay, I know how old you were because you were a young kid. So just tell me your grade.
I was in 5th grade.
8th.
8th.
7th.
7th.
Okay. Yeah. John. Yeah.
19?
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
That's
quite a range.
I would say that is more preferred. And it is a range. I would say that is more maybe realistic these days than earlier. And I would say that's preferred. Go ahead.
I can tell you I was too young, probably.
Yes, I agree. Thank you for saying that out loud.
Yes.
Way too young. And
I put on, so just,
I don't know if we all want to hear your stories, okay, around this, but okay.
Oh God, this is so embarrassing. I had called, it was the classic example of like, her friend called me on the phone and was like, so-and-so wants to kiss you up at the park. And I was like, girl.
I'll be right there.
I jumped in the shower.
Be right there. Oh, you did?
Oh, God. Well, and I jumped.
In fifth grade?
Okay, listen.
Oh, my
I jumped in the shower.
Oh, wow.
And I did like what Charlotte does, where a lot of times, like, my parents had a shower, so I'd shower in their bathroom.
Got it.
And so, like, there was this stuff sitting on the counter, and it smelled awesome. And I put it all over me. Come to find out later, it belonged to my mom, not my dad. So I showed up
smelling
lady scented and ready to smooch.
I was going to say her herbal essences. Remember those commercials? But it probably was earlier than that because it was the 80s.
Oh, it was.
So
it was strong,
I'm
too.
sure. Maybe like some Dove
something. It was like a you remember how those perfumes
used to come? Body wash.
This is so humiliating. You would buy
probably
a perfume.
Like a Mary Kay body wash.
You would buy a perfume, and then it came with like a travel perfume, and then like the body wash, and like, and I was like,
just
this
lathered.
smells awesome.
Oh, that's what you get. Well, that's fine.
I'm
you didn't
so
know.
embarrassed. I can't believe I'm saying this out loud.
I mean, I like seventh and eighth grade, middle school. Girls, I think, are usually earlier. I think, to your point, it's either super early.
Yeah.
You're like an early adopter, or it's way later, which is what I'm hoping my son will be. Not way later, but I prefer he's like the later end.
Maybe he's already.
Oh, let's not. Oh, I don't. Yeah, we're not going to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's too much for my mom heart today. Like, I can't.
So here's
I'm already talking about vulnerable stuff. I can't talk about that.
Here's my nerd brain for a second,
okay,
right?
Go ahead.
Like, if we're going to spend this time talking about love, not to get too Forrest Gumpy, but like, do we know what love is?
Sure. So I was gonna. Yes. So because I also geeked out and looked up a few definitions. So I was gonna use classical definitions from Aristotle.
Of course.
Please, come on. Why not?
That's great. So let's go with these definitions because I've been like. I have a definition of love that was given to me that I actually think is really good.
What is it?
I'm curious to know. Well,
just tell me what it is.
Okay, so I'll tell everyone. I'm curious to know your thoughts, right?
Great.
Like I was told, and love is the commitment of my will to your.
Sounds like Oprah.
Can you just?
Sorry.
Go
ahead.
I would love if you just let me finish. Love. So here's a definition of love I was given. Love is the
commitment.
Thank you. Love is the commitment of my will to your needs and best interests, regardless of the cost.
Sure.
So I'll say it again.
That one.
I'll say it again.
Great.
Love is the commitment to my will to your needs and best interests, regardless of the cost.
I'll give you another one. Willing the good of the other. That's a John Paul II.
Hold on. Do you like that definition?
Sure, it's a great one.
Is that
willing
Kaylee,
the good of the other? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think willing the good of the other. I don't need all the periphery stuff because I think if you will the good of another person, that sums it up. It's good. It's what whether you can accomplish it or not that's where things get hairy.
Here's what I like about it.
Sure.
It's active.
Okay.
It's beyond the emotional element.
I like
of
that
love.
too.
You know what I mean?
It's not like
how
I feel.
I love you because you make me feel a certain way.
Yeah.
No, it's like because you make me feel a certain way, it prompts this from me to you.
Great.
That is very selfless, which is the commitment of my will to your needs and best interests, regardless of the cost.
Sure.
And you can apply it to a spousal partnership. You can apply it to parenting.
Sure.
You can apply it to friends. It's just like, I think it's a great metric of like, do I actually love this person? Do I really like this person?
Right.
And that's a big difference.
Right.
It
is a huge difference. And I guess we can, I was going to go with the classical definitions just because I wanted to sort of delineate a little bit because I think to your previous point, and you didn't ask this question, but I'll raise it because we talked about it earlier, which is like, do we think kids are actually, do they understand, one, what love is, and are they like, how is the process going for them these days? And I think part of the reason we want to talk about this is because it's difficult. I think it's way more difficult for them than I want to say, like when we met, and just
so
in
many
different
parts
times.
of childhood were easier for us.
Yeah. I don't know if it was easier. It's just different. I do. I think there's a lot being put on them. And
they were easy. I don't envy kids at all right now. It's so hard.
I think things have just been really distorted for them. In just the whole culture of just looking at anything through a lens, right? It's just a different, they don't have the human experience.
Let's start with the way that young people are approaching dating.
Sure.
Where it's like, see the face in 2 dimensions.
Yes.
And swipe.
Right.
That's not...
I mean, theoretically, I'm hearing that people are moving sort of away from that, but still true.
I
would
have
say
no
it's
idea.
majority. Okay.
Also, important to note, Molly and I have been out of the dating game for a while.
It's true.
So we are speaking
we're not
with
super
almost
hip.
no expertise on this whatsoever. So
I would say we're an expertise in dating. I wouldn't say we're expertise in the current methodologies.
You were an expert in dating. I was not an expert in dating.
Well, I wasn't an expert in love.
So here's
just in dating. So
we've got some really interesting
caveat.
perspectives in the room on this.
Okay,
so like Molly was a heavy dater, right?
A lot of first dates.
I am
just mostly first
I'm
dates.
a monogamy guy. Like I like coupling. Also, I was
that's clip.
Also, I was like I like coupling.
Sorry. I just started
Clipping.
Stop saying it.
With the hand motion.
I just couldn't. Sorry. I'm sorry. Go. I was trying to just like laugh over here and like.
I didn't even realize I was doing it.
No, that's why I started laughing even harder.
I like being a part of the couple.
Yes, I'm aware.
You know what I mean.
Thank you. Yes, go. Sorry.
But also, like, I was married before Molly and I met. So, like,
Yeah.
I've been married and divorced. Like, so,
Yeah.
like, even though I like being a part of a couple,
Yeah.
like, I'm also have been prone to really bad decisions,
Sure.
right? So, like,
I don't know if it was bad decisions. I think that maybe we should get into that because
can.
not your previous marriage. But I really want to talk about discernment. Right? Like,
Sure.
and I want to talk about your instincts. I want to talk about how do we teach kids to trust their instincts when it comes to your definition.
To dating, right?
Sure.
Because
Okay.
like you did a lot of dating.
Avid dater.
I don't have interest in dating.
Sure.
Like it wasn't.
Why not? Can you tell me? That's really interesting to me. And I don't know if we've ever talked about this. Why didn't you?
That's weird. You and I have never talked about this.
Why the aversion?
I hate small talk.
Okay.
I despise it. And so like I don't have to date to figure out where you're from and how many siblings you have.
Sure,
And
maybe
it's
where
like,
you grew up, but that wasn't necessarily the case for me.
Also true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But also like I don't.
Maybe you knew a lot of those periphery.
That's a really good question.
Sorry, I just
like,
don't
why
know.
don't
Yeah.
I
do have a deep aversion of it.
Yeah.
And actually when you and I first
like
got
courtship.
together, I like courtship too.
Yeah.
Which is really
I'm
funny.
a romantic.
Yeah, so am I, which is really funny.
Yeah.
I just think it's interesting to me because like now that you can think about it because it's clear you don't have like a sure like pinpoint, but it is interesting to me only in the sense that like we have a lot of shared, just like footing and understanding and similar ways that we grew up. And I'm just thinking like, well, you knew all of that about the people that you were dating, whereas maybe I didn't. Like everything was like mysterious and different.
Did you like dating?
I like people. I'm just fascinated by people.
No, don't dodge.
So
That's
hold
a
on.
dodge. Did you like dating?
I do.
Liking people is one thing.
No, I liked dating. I liked meeting interesting people, men. I liked having conversations with them. I liked sharing meals about like, tell me about your life and tell me about your family and tell me about like, I liked the process of getting to know someone. I think it's interesting because I find human beings really interesting. And so like that process I liked. I didn't like the pressure of any sort of physical side of things. It was very uncomfortable. I think all women probably don't like the pressure of any physical. I would say, I mean, just talking like presently, I think that has like the pressure of any sort of physical relationship has removed the really great part of dating that we like, which is courtship.
Sure.
Like getting to know someone, having conversations, sharing meals, sharing time, having a cup of coffee, just like having normal human interactions and a lot of conversations before there's anything physical. I think, things have kind of been turned on their head to its detriment People are very confused.
Yeah, a lot of
I mean, I think you had
a lot of times now it's like the physical before the courtship.
Oh yeah, before any conversation. And I think I will never forget that you had a player say to you one time, or he was an old player.
I totally.
And I won't say who it is, because you still talk to this person all the time. But it's really interesting. Who you said, how's dating, and he was like, find it. Go ahead.
No, that's that he.
Okay. Or you asked him how ladies were or something. He was a handsome young guy, very charismatic.
Yes, handsome young guy.
There were
came
always
up
ladies
to me,
around.
Literally put his arm around me.
Yeah.
And he was like, Wes, man, like how, like, because he had seen you and I interact.
Oh, funny. And also weird.
Yeah. But
okay.
not.
No,
Like
I mean, I was around. We were always doing.
Put a pin in this for just a second, because somebody told me something when I was in Chicago, which I thought was interesting. But he came up, like, put his arm around me. He was like, Wes, he was just like, man, it's easy to find women to have sexual relationships with. Like, it's hard to find somebody who wants to have a relationship. Yeah. How do you do that? Yeah. And it blew my mind.
Like, randomly.
The question,
like the start of football practice.
We were in the middle of practice.
Okay. He's just throwing that one down.
It was completely. But I was, and we chatted about it. But I was sad. Yeah. I was sad for him, because I was just like, man, that's so reversed. Yes. Like,
I think that's how I feel mostly a lot of the times, and it's like funny when I talk to just like my younger cousins or people who are in the just the throes of dating right now, 20 somethings, our old neighbor who she grew up next door to us, but we're still really close with her family and recently got married, whatever. So just in the time when she was going through all of her tumult, there's just a lot of uncertainty, and it's very, very different. And to your point, like you just said, she had all these people. It's easy for men to be sexually attracted to her. She's a Division I college athlete and a diver, but she relationally, she had a really difficult time, and was really sweet and really smart and
wonderful,
really attractive and great personality. I mean, there's no reason why she should have
She's the best.
Right.
She's this is a person who should not struggle in any way. Right. She is smart. She's athletic. She's attractive. She's fun.
Right.
She
but finding love wasn't a chore, but it was a heavy lift. Sure. And I think that is probably the case for more young people today than not. And so it's only concerning me because our children are starting to get in that realm, just normally, behaviorally, adolescently, where they're having all these feelings. I don't think you can
get in that swipe place where it's just I'm going to put the physical before
it's
the
unhealthy.
emotional.
Yeah, it's definitely reductionist and definitely an inverted. So, but my question is, how do we get them back to that place of teaching them the importance of just relationships and love and why it's important?
Give me your
my definitions.
Give me your love definitions.
Okay, well, I don't know if this is the place you want to go, because I really liked your definition. I just was going to go
through
we
don't have to go here if you don't want to.
I'll give you the classical definitions just for sake of conversation so that we can put things orderly a little bit. Okay, so I think to what you were saying previously, things have been just so distorted and everything's been muddled and jumbled together. Yeah. So I think we need to pull some things apart and be a little bit clearer.
Because sometimes people use love and friendship like they're synonyms, and they're not. Yes. People use love and lust like they're synonyms, and they're not, right?
So agape is agape in a classical tradition, right? These are all Aristotle, so you can look them up. They're not super hard. Is the unconditional love that you have in your family, that you have in your friendship, willing the good of the other, right? Okay. It's the highest form, agape. Yeah. That's what you want. Eros is romantic. You could also say lust, but deep love. I'm in love with you, romantic love, the whole Twitter-pated phase. That's the Eros.
Oh, Twitter-pated.
Yeah. Look that reference up, people. Anyone who's under 30 will have no idea what I'm talking about. Twitter-pated. It's okay. And then the philia is friendship, right?
Yes.
Which you want with the people who are closest to you.
I think with your spouse or your partner, you want all three of those.
Sure. You can have all three. So I love that.
You and I tell each other this all the time.
Because the ideal is that you have all three.
I love you. You're my best friend.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think we said before, my siblings both got married, was something that we really wish for them was not that everyone has to have a relationship, because I don't think that, and we're not going to talk about marriage, but I do think we wanted sort of the deep, centered, focused sort of unconditional love that I felt like you and I had and really fought for.
Do you think?
Oh gosh.
Do you think it's wise? If we're talking about teaching kids, hey, what do you look for when you're in love with a spouse or partner, right? Do you look for all three of those? Is that good advice? to say like, hey, make sure you have that like friendship type love.
Yeah.
Make sure that you have that romantic sort of like physical attraction type love, and then make sure you have that unconditional love.
Well, I think so. This is where it gets hairy. Go ahead.
The only reason I asked the question is because my initial knee-jerk response is to say like, yes, look for all three of those.
That's what I think too.
But it's an incredibly biased opinion because we have all three of those.
Thank you. Get it? I said thank you. It was like Shar with the love. I'm just teasing. It took a second.
Kaylee got it immediately.
It's okay.
I was of course
It's
late.
Right.
I was late to the party.
I was just making a joke. I do really love.
I had to see Kaylee laughing to realize it was a joke, and then I was like, oh yeah, she got me. Pew 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 pew.
I'm just teasing. I do, and I want that. Like, okay, so if we're talking about our children, my wish, right, and my prayer and my hope for them is that they do find that they get to love their best friend, and they're also very physically attracted to them. Like they have that romantic partnership and peace. And then also there's a deep, unconditional, just willingness in them to die to themselves to will the good of the other person. Like all of that is true. I want that. I think it's ideal. I think a lot of it has to do with just like how you're raised and what you see, because we talk about this all the time in parenting, which is like, you cannot give what you never received. Right? So like you're in adulthood and you're supposed to be super responsible, but you didn't have any responsibility as a kid, then you're going to fumble that up. You know, if you see a lot of broken relationships, and that's no one's fault. It's not a moral judgment. It's just like, that is humanity, right? People's parents don't stay together. They just don't. Mm-hmm. And that's okay, right? Like things fall apart for a myriad of reasons. Yes. All the reasons. That is being a human person and being a human being. So part of it is like, I think you were teasing me about dating, but like the initial process of finding and discerning what are your deal breakers, what's most important to you, and what is really more important than just like the physical way or the feelings I have for you right now. Like, what is this going to look like in 10 years or 15 years? Am I even in this for 10 years or 15 years? Can I even see that with you? You know, because I was saying to Kaylee's point, like I really think that there are people that I probably thought that I loved in the past, probably one in particular that I was really, like we were off and on for a really long time. And looking back at that, I don't think my feelings for that person were wrong at the time. Like I would still validate like, oh, that was appropriate. That was authentic. And that was exactly how I felt at the time. And even after time has passed, I still have a deep care and will for that person's good in this world, but
your commitment.
Well, my commitment changed. And I also,
different.
My commitment to it just, there was nothing that we were on the same page. Like maybe outwardly everything looked the same, but internally there was not even close to the same footing. That for me was a red flag. Like, this isn't going anywhere.
Can I backtrack for just a second? Not that I want to continue talking about your ex-boyfriends. Yeah, but you said,
babe, this is part of life.
No,
okay.
That's fine.
Yes.
You said something that was really interesting that I feel like, and Kaylee, I'd be curious for you to weigh in on this.
Sure.
Like, you were talking about like, you know, when you start dating and deal breakers. You mentioned deal breakers. Yeah. I feel like this is a uniquely female thing. Like I've never had a conversation with my buddies where we focus on
really interesting
deal breakers.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure we have them.
Yeah.
I'm sure I could think of some, but it's not sort of like when is this a common, like the deal breaker conversation?
So
is this a conversation you guys have
Let
a lot?
me give you one that you have that you never knew that you have, which is children. That was a deal breaker for you, but you just didn't adhere to it. That was part of...
Wait, what?
Wanting children. So that was not an equal footing.
Yes.
To begin with.
I wanted children.
Yes.
I wanted to be a dad.
Yes.
And I didn't even think, I'm just stupid. Like I didn't even think to like have that conversation. Like, does this, like, do you want this in the same way that I want this?
Sure. But like, that's a thing for me. Like, I think maybe as women, and Kaylee can speak to this, like, are we like,
do you go in with a list of deal breakers?
Yes, I did with you. Don't you remember me giving them to him?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Sometimes it depends on the type of relationship you're looking to engage in.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't understand what the deal breakers are until you
Sure. Yeah, that's a good point. I really like that. I
think
love
that's
that.
a healthy approach. The notion of like, I don't understand what the deal breakers are until you encounter them.
Or I think as you age, and this is maybe just for me, but I think, the things that were deal breakers in my 20s are not anything that I would have thought about my 30s, 40s, because you're young, you don't have the experience, you don't have the wisdom, you don't know. Right. And that's maybe a mercy. Like, you don't know what you don't know. So like to Kaylee's point, it's like, well, I didn't even know to look for that in my 20s, but now like my 30s and 40s, like, that's for sure a deal breaker. There's no way I would ever deal with that again.
Thank God I snapped you up right before those 30s. You figured out what those deal breakers were.
I mean, I don't know if you remember this, but we had a conversation early on where you were like, what are your deal breakers? And I was just like, there's just things that like,
because you had mentioned it. You were like, God, deal breakers. And I was like, what are your deal breakers?
Yeah.
Because I was like, I'll try to avoid those.
Or align with them, depending.
Or depending on how this goes, like, keep those in my back pocket.
Well, and I also think like that's a funny point that you were like, oh, men don't think of it like that. I think you probably do. You just don't know that you do, or you're rare. Like to Kaylee's point, like you didn't know they were a deal breaker until you encountered it, and then you were like, oh,
it's not a thing. It's not a thing I remember actively being like, okay, we got to check all these boxes before.
Yes.
Yes. That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe you just didn't use that language. I just think for women, I think for me in particular, there are a handful of things. So, and you and I talked about this. Like, you tell me, what were my deal breakers? Do you remember?
Oh yeah, because I know that I didn't check a bunch of those boxes.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Right?
So when we met, I was still married and going through a divorce.
Yeah,
like that was a pretty strong deal breaker.
Should be a deal breaker really in general for everyone.
Pretty immediately.
It's a good rule of thumb.
You know, like not like essentially not being Catholic was almost a deal breaker, even though I wasn't that either.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it was a deal breaker.
That was a big one.
Smoking was a deal breaker for you.
Yeah.
You're
making me sound like such a judgmental bitch right now. But like at the time,
I'm repeating your words to me.
I know, which is even funnier. I know. Keep going. This is right. You're 100% right. I'm just like
I'm spot
hearing
on so
it again.
far.
Yeah, you are.
And then you had
like,
some real interesting ones like. For men over 30, shirts with words on them.
I mean, these are all things that I joked.
And cargo shorts.
These are things that I joked. That I was
like that was real.
It was in the sense that like
I think I was probably when we met wearing shirts with words on them and cargo shorts.
It was a Hollister shirt. I'm for sure that you were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh,
that's
okay.
That's called to my previous point about me being a bitch. That's called karma. Did you see? Are you hearing all that stuff about yourself? And you see, here I am married to you right now. Here we go. So it's good. Like I didn't know everything. Thank God.
Other than not being a smoker.
I mean, okay. So
I didn't check any of those boxes.
Yes. So I think when it comes to love, like getting back to our original talk, you didn't check those boxes. But to my previous point, it's like I saw more things in you, right? My discernment was like, oh, but you're such a good human being.
I think go ahead. Sorry.
You were such a good human being.
I was just going to say, I think that's a really good point.
That I just sort of overlooked things that were, to my detriment, really petty and kind of dumb. It's just like, why am I even caring about all this stuff? Which I guess in your 20s, you do care about dumb shit. Like you just do. It's hard. You don't have enough perspective or wisdom to care about the stuff that actually is important. And no offense to anyone in their 20s. It's just, wisdom only comes with time. It just does. There's no other way to get it. But so I think I looked past a lot of those things because I was like, oh, his taste in music is bad. He definitely dresses bad. He's kind of a joker.
I, for the record, had not mentioned taste in music. That's one Molly added to our list just now.
I'm just saying things that I cared about that were petty.
I had given you like 4 things. You could have picked from those.
I know, but I'm just sort of torching myself right now. So let it go. Let it happen. Okay. Were things that I needed to look past because you just checked so many boxes in other ways in terms of just like, you were super hilarious. You're really great human being. You were great with the kids because I was like watching you teach and watching you, you were really good at things that trumped all the other petty, dumb stuff. No, you weren't Catholic. Yes, the fact that you were in the midst of a separation, ultimate divorce, really hairy. And I think we both were like, I think having asked this now, 15 years in, we would have avoided having to deal with any of that. I would have totally. You would have never asked me. I would have never been like, yes, I would love to like enter into a relationship with this 27-year-old divorcee who's really living in Paris. You know, I mean, it was a mess, right? Like talk about deal breakers, like that whole thing. But also if we're talking about willing the good of another, and also, you know, friendship, like those were immediately checked.
Friendship,
just like
physical
very
attraction,
natural,
like
very natural. And
love
don't
and
get me
willing
wrong,
the good of the other.
And I
like,
say this to you all the time because I think it's really important for like the discernment of people. It's just like, yes, you have a great face, and I love that. You know, it's not like I'm not attracted to you, but that's originally not what attracted me to you. It was that you're super funny, you know, and you were very self-deprecating, and you were real, like you were just like a joker and kind of a, you know, kind of a clown. And it was off-putting for me because when I think anyone who encounters you, it doesn't fit the package. And so that was interesting to me. I'm like, oh, that doesn't usually go together. A face like that and a sense of humor? Come on. You know, like you don't get all of the great things. God has to divvy things out
You do
evenly.
if you had a really awkward stage in middle school.
Like, come on. Like, you got to divvy up. Not everybody gets all the goods for everything all the time. It's very annoying. You know, and I remember thinking like, oh, he's probably kind of stupid. Again. You know, that's what I get. Again, petty 20-something.
I cannot
petty
believe that you married me.
20-something. Can you not?
Learning
Really?